Good evening to all of you. I hope I'm audible. Welcome you all to Secure Wars, the ethical hacking workshop organized by IET on campus, University of Peradeniya, in collaboration with IEEE Robotics and Automation Society. I'm Soumya Aberatna, a third year undergraduate, and I will be the moderator for today's session. IET on campus, University of Peradeniya is the student branch chapter of IET, the Institute of Engineering and Technology Sri Lanka network of the global IET platform, which plays a major role in the career development of engineering professionals. And IEEE Robotics and Automation Society student branch chapter of University of Peradeniya is a volunteering organization with the mission of exchanging and developments of knowledge related to robotics and information. So Secure Wars 2021 was organized by these two societies in order to give the enthusiasts around the country an opportunity to get an idea about information security. So this workshop series will be carried out in 2 sessions, and from this the participants will be able to get an idea about the categories of information security, the available tools related to information security, and also how to become a professional in the field of information security. So before moving forward, I would like to take a couple of minutes to give a brief introduction to our guest speaker today, Engineer Thushara Deshapriya, who is the Principal Engineer on Application Security at Pearson Lanka Private Limited. Mr. Deshapriya is also a visiting lecturer at University of Colombo on Information Assurance, Security, and IT Law. He is also the co-founder of Colombo Secure Programming Community and has years of experience in the field of security engineering and software security. So it's a real privilege for us to have him join with us today. And thank you, sir, for joining us in spite of your busy schedule to share your knowledge and experiences with us. So we, as the organizing committee, believe the participants will get the best out of today's session. And also, if you have any questions during or at the end of the lecture, you can direct them to the question platform which is provided to you in the chat. And by visiting that link, you can post your questions there. And your questions will be answered at the Q&A session at the end of the lecture. And also, I would like to remind you that you will be given to complete some tasks at the end of today's session and also to complete a feedback form. So those who complete these milestones successfully will be awarded with valuable e-certificate. So now, without further ado, I cordially invite Mr. Deshapriya to conduct the session. And we believe that the participants will actively take part and get the best out of today's session. Dear sir, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, all. I'm really happy to join with this session. Actually, this is the first time I'm doing a session for Peradeniya University students, and most of the time we do sessions for like the students in Colombo and the universities in Colombo, like Colombo University, Morto University, and some of the private universities like Slate and all that, right? So this is the first time I'm doing this session. I'm really happy, and I remember Pearson. I came to University of Peradeniya, I believe, 3 years ago from Pearson. We did a session. We had a wonderful session, wonderful crowd, and today also I can see we have probably like 200. It's really good, really good crowd. And so, okay, yeah, thank you very much for having me, and let's see what we got for today, and hope you enjoyed the session. So I'm not going to get into like in depth, like some areas like we can go in depth, but due to this time, like let's try to finish within 1.5 hours, 90 minutes, because that is most of the time that's what we can listen to someone, right? And let's try to get some idea about this subject and what it is, and how what we need to do or what we need to learn, like what will be the future and all that, right? and hope to do some practicals also today. And then let's see how it goes. Let me share my screen. Unfortunately, we have actually, I have a slide deck. Slides are very boring. I know that. So hope you can see my the slides. Uh, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
It's visible.
Thank you. So this is just the introduction session for information security. And unfortunately, I don't have a introduction to myself slide. I believe it's not required. No one looking even at those, right? So this is what today we're going to cover. We're going to take a very brief introduction to information security, what it is and what is the purpose. We can freely talk about it. I mean, it's a broad area, but let's try to capture some of the key points here, right? And also let's try to understand what are the opportunities. I believe that is the most important thing, right? So we are looking for a job in the future, and I believe some of you guys are from electronic engineering, and some of you are from IT engineering batches. So anyway, like it doesn't matter. So we need this knowledge, maybe for our personal life or even to continue it for our career, right? So even though like you're not in information security domain, you're not doing a job in information security domain, it's better to have idea, because now everything is, smart devices and IoT and everything, right? Everything is connected. So it's better to have some idea about this. Otherwise, you don't even know what will happen around you, right? And then, of course, I'm trying to focus on the application security, which is a one specialized track. Why I took this topic is like because of the web application and mobile application, right? Those are like very close to us. Even if you look at the social media and everything, right? It's very close. Every day we're using, and some of the critical functionalities also we are performing using these web applications. And also software engineering is a great industry. I mean, it's kind of a major industry in Sri Lanka as well. Right? We got a lot of job opportunities, and so we need to understand what are the security issues related to these applications, right? So and also like how we can find these issues and how to fix them, and what are the tools that, that can help for us, right? So this is what I'm trying to cover. But if you have any questions, like that lady said, like please raise it. So we'll try to answer the questions, right? Okay, so let's get started. So what is information security, right? So this is the question that we need to ask. What the heck it is, right? So, I mean, there are like so many definitions if you think about it, like, but the simplest thing is like, the purpose of information security, or why we need information security, is to protect our digital assets, right? So now we have physical assets as well as digital assets, right? So digital assets most of the time related to whatever the e-documents or whatever information which is available uh, in digital format, right? It doesn't, maybe it's on your hard disk, or like maybe you store in a cloud somewhere in a drive, right? So how to protect these digital assets, that's the information security is all about, right? So if you ask the question like why we care about this information, uh, I, I believe you guys already know about this. Information is everything these days, right? So if you look at the business, like most of the businesses are based on information, right? Even if you get a supermarket, they need information about their customers' buying patterns, whatever, right? So that is information. They need that to run the business. Otherwise, you can't run it. I mean, even if you take your university, they need information about students and their marks and whatever, right? So then only they can fine tune whatever the stuff. And also, like, you can think of your employees data, right? That is an asset for you, right? And sometimes some of the intellectual properties, for example, trade secrets, right? Copyright documents, or like maybe some inventions you have in digital format, right? These are informations, right? Sometimes when you lose it, right, probably you will lose millions. Sometimes you don't even know
Excuse me,
what is the
sir.
worth of a
Excuse me,
particular
sir. I'm
idea or
sorry to
whatever.
interrupt.
Sorry.
But your audio volume is quite low and
Oh,
it's
sure.
not
Okay.
clear a little.
Is that fine now?
Yes, sir. Thank
Okay,
you.
cool. Sorry about that. So as I was saying, this information is an asset um, for us and for industries or for companies. We need to protect it, and we have three components uh, which we are focusing on. This is called CIA triad. I believe you guys heard about this. CIA means like confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So these three components, we are trying to preserve these three components, right? Uh, that is what information security is all about, right? If you think about. So I believe you know the meaning of this. Confidentiality is basically it's trying to protect the information from unauthorized reading. So someone who is unauthorized to read something should not be able to read it. For example, I don't know, for like if you take example, right, your salary information is really confidential to you, right? No one else should be able to read it, so that is confidential, right? I mean, you can define whatever the information. Right now people are saying personally identifiable information, PII, is confidential, right? For example, your email address, your telephone number, those are confidential, right? So integrity, on the other hand, slightly different. This says unauthorized modifications, right? So only authorized person should be able to modify it. For example, your results, right? I mean, you can view it, but you cannot modify it, right? I mean, it's really good if you can modify it. You can change it, but only authorized people can change it, right? Or enter it, right? So you can't go and modify it. Nobody else can, right? That is integrity, right? Availability is basically like the information should be available, like whenever you need, your information should be available. For example, whenever you need, you should be able to log into your bank account and do some transaction, right? So the challenge is like preserve the availability and also these two components, right? So that's the challenge. We should be make it available. At the same time, we should make sure that unauthorized people cannot read it data, and unauthorized people cannot modify the data, right? So that's basically the high level picture. With information security, we are trying to protect our digital assets, and these are the three areas that we are targeting, right? Confidentiality, integrity, availability. Okay. So if you look at the opportunities right now, so I list down, this is not the entire list. I just put uh, some main areas, like for example, GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, right? So this team basically create the policies, procedures, and basically they assess the risk of the organization, right? What is the risk for the organization, and what are the controls that they need to put, and everything, right? So a little bit of boring for a technical person, but this is really critical function in an organization. Actually, they are the one who is managing everything, and most of the other components are just basically the functions under GRC, right? For example, governance team wants to understand what is the risk of their new web application or mobile application. So they will decide, okay, we need to do a pen test on that, right? So they will get a pen testing team, likewise, right? So GRC team basically they cover everything, right? If you really look at some, most of the technical people, they don't like this area because a lot of documents, policies, and everything, standards, right? And SOC, if you look at SOC, very critical. They monitor all the functionalities, what is happening, all the attacks and everything, right? And cloud security, platform security, right? So they take care of the platform. You have infrastructure. Someone should make sure those are secure. Digital forensics, I think if something goes wrong, you have to do forensics. Even government, I believe government also, uh, some incidents they do forensics. Threat hunting and threat intelligence, this is a really great area, right? So before something happens, you go and investigate and you create some knowledge uh, around using whatever the publicly available information, right? Maybe in dark web or whatever, right? What are the available informations and what are the emerging new threats, right? Those stuff, right? Application security, of course, we are going to focus on that today. This is related to what we develop, right? And basically developers are creating these vulnerabilities. So that's what we are trying to understand. So pen testing or penetration testing is basically like, you're trying to act as an outside attacker and try to penetrate whatever the security controls and try to get in. And our, we are trying to block the outside attacker, and penetration tester is doing everything to get in, right? So it's kind of a war there. And security engineering, so they basically do a lot of automation, security related automation, right? Automation and R&D on available security solutions, tools, and implement those controls and everything, right? So a high level picture I just wanted to give you. Okay. So some of the myths that we have around this, right? The security. So I put some points here because some people they misunderstand or misunderstood this whole concept, right? And some of the professionals also they misunderstood these concepts, right? So some people think like, I believe what is Kali Linux is. It's kind of a Linux distro with a lot of security tools. It's a nice thing, but if you just have Kali, you can't do much, right? So some people think, if when you have Kali, you got everything. It's not like that, right? And expensive tools, I mean, it's nice to have them, but you don't need them. And some people think courses can make you hacker or certifications can make you hacker. Not like that. And if you look at all those hackers, like very famous hackers, they don't have any certifications, right? I mean, just go and Google search. They don't have any certificate or degrees or whatever, right? They don't have it. And some people think, okay, pen test can solve everything. It's not like that, right? Pen test, the output of penetration testing may be a report of vulnerabilities, but if the organization, or if you are not going to look at that report and act on those issues, the risk will be there forever, right? And some people think it's a cryptography problem. Well, cryptography, there is there are problems with cryptography, but it's not everything, right? Some people think it's only called cryptography, right? Whenever you say like, we need to protect these, so they will say, okay, encrypt that, right? Or hash it, right? It's not going to solve everything. So, and some people think, okay, software developers should solve these security things. It's not like that. It's basically, it's entire organization's responsibility. And some people think high risk application, only high risk application should be secure. Well, it's not like that, right? So I mean, I mean, high risk applications, of course, like financial, like banking web applications, like, you have to protect it. But the other web applications also get attacked, right? So people attack those sites, and use that website to attack other websites likewise, right? So some myths. So let's go on. Okay, so what we require. So if you want to practice these things, right? Information security, and practically you need to do some practicals. But otherwise, now without practicals, I mean, you cannot learn this attacking stuff. But uh, so what is required basically, right? So I mean, the mindset and attitude, yeah, because sometimes, like, this is little bit tricky, right? Not really hard, and also not easy, right? So you need some dedication, right? So you need to have that mindset, and maybe a intercepting proxy. We'll look into that in a minute. Intercepting proxy, and probably a vulnerable web application, right? So that this is all you need to practice, and I will show you what are the available. So I put a link to one. This is just a virtual machine, so you can download, and there are so many vulnerable applications within that virtual machine, and you can practice, right? And there are online applications also. We'll see a couple of those. Okay. Okay, and then if you ask why application security, so I put some points why it is important. Some people ask, like, there are so many things, right? So like 10-15 years ago, when we talk about security, it was all about network security. Everybody was talking about firewalls, right? So like, when we talk to people, are you looking into security? Yes, yes, we have the firewall and IDS, right? So everything is fine. So that's what they said. No one even talk about application security or the other areas. So here's the one important thing why application security is important. So let's say, like, you put all the controls like firewalls, WAF and IDS, IPS, like, whatnot, and endpoint protections, right? You put every control, right? Still, your web application should be able to go through all the tools, all the controls, and talk to the database, right? Otherwise, the application will not work, right? So when you open a browser and put the URL, it should load the URL with the data, right? Which means, like, the traffic goes through all those controls and grab the data for you, right? So in that case, like, those controls should allow the traffic, right? So if the attacker can get into that channel, whatever the application communication channel, so no one can stop him, right? Those controls basically cannot stop him, basically, right? So that is the first thing that you need to understand. I mean, we need to understand, right? And so software is basically designed and developed by us humans. And if you see the top vulnerabilities, web application related top vulnerabilities, developers are responsible for at least six, right? So we should be proud. I mean, if you want to become a developer, yeah, please get in. Because I'm a developer, so I'm really proud about it, because we created these vulnerabilities in the first place, and now we are trying to fix them, right? So that this is why, like, application security issues important, and this is what you need to test them, right? So now, just to give you some idea about these developers, so most of the time, we go and Google search. If we have a problem, we go and Google search, right? And the first site we are getting is like Stack Overflow, right? We look into those codes and we copy paste those codes into our whatever the project, right? I mean, this is happening, right? And you cannot control it, right? When you have a problem, you naturally Google search, and you get some code sample, copy paste, right? So you do that. So how do you know that those code samples are secured, or like these samples are followed best practices security, right? This is kind of an issue. So that's why this application security, I mean, organizations recently, like most of the organizations are talking about application security, and they're really caring about application security. And there are so many trainings and KTs are going on to train them, right? So if you look at a typical code sample just like this, uh, you know uh, this is a really important point for IT folks we have here. So I believe like everyone understand what is the problem with this code block, right? Anybody wants to talk, or like what is the problem? Do you see any problem with this code? This is just a pseudo code. So let's assume like someone passed 0 to y. All right. So you will get a division by 0 error. All right. So, and obviously you need to validate it. So, uh, I mean, almost every developer will understand this, right? Probably, maybe you don't, but like if you're a developer, you will get it, right? So, and no one will write a code like this, because I mean, 100% sure, guaranteed that if you write something like this, unfortunately, if someone pass 0 to y, the program will crash, right? So same goes with the security issues, right? If you don't know about security issues, right, you don't know how to protect it, or like, which means like, when you are coding, if you don't know about security issues, you will ignore it, right? For example, if you don't know about division by 0, you will write a code like this. But if you know about this issue, you will not write it, right? So what we need to do is like train developers on the security issues and how to fix them, and what is the damage and all that, right? And also, like, right now the industry is basically demanding secure developers. Like, if you're going to get into the industry, it's better to have security knowledge, understanding, because industry is now demanding it. And unfortunately, India is, uh, you know, ahead us, right, with this. So we need to like, think about it and then improve our knowledge in this area. Okay, cool. So that's what. So let's get into the actual stuff. Okay, so intercepting proxies, right? So intercepting proxy, why we need intercepting proxy is, now generally we browse uh, a website. We don't see the actual information flowing from browser to the backend server, right? We just see the UI, I mean the web page, right? But just to see the underlying traffic, right, we need to have an intercepting proxy, right? Intercepting proxy is just a proxy which is capable of capturing all the traffic, web traffic, right? Not the network traffic, the layer 7 web traffic, right? So I put a couple of examples. There are many. I put a couple of examples, like the burp suit is a really a cool tool. There is a free version, but most of the time you have to pay and get it. OSP SAP is a 100% free open source tool. These tools are pretty much the same, right? Only thing is, this is a commercial tool. Burp Suite is a commercial tool with various other features. But for us, uh, the free version is enough. Burp Suite free version is enough. And if you are a developer, of course, if you are doing development, probably you are using Fiddler, and this is not a security tool, but still we can use it, right? So we'll see this in action in a minute. Okay, so this is about intercepting proxy. Like, let's see how we can configure and everything. Okay, let's try to see that. Let me try to stop sharing and share this again. Do you see this window? Do you see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So I think I have, this is actually a virtual machine. If you can't see anything, just let me know. I have burp suit. So burp suit is you can download the installation file, or like simply a jar file, like anything is fine, right? So just open. This is the free edition, you can see, and a little bit old, right? This is not a really like a complicated tool. This is just like Fiddler, right? It's a very simple tool, right? So here, and now every tampering proxy has a proxy setting, right? So in burp suite, it is under proxy tab and under options, right? This is where the proxy. So if you take Fiddler, it's somewhere under options, and SAP also there is an option and proxy setting, right? Somewhere, like, you need to find it. And it's not really hard to find it, like these days, like, there are so many. No, I don't need to update. So this is the setting, like, probably you see this proxy is listening right now to loopback address and port 8080, right? I believe you understand this, right? So port 8080 and loopback address means like the local host, right? So it's listening. So this is fine, and the proxy is running. You can see it's ticked, right? And you can see the intercept is on, right? You can, if you want, you can switch it off, switch it on, right? And now all you need to do is, like, you get your browser. I'm using Firefox because it's easy, because I mean, you can configure Chrome and everything, like, but Firefox has its own proxy setting, and then it's really cool. All right. And if you're doing security testing, the Firefox is better because Chrome has its own security mechanism, and then it's a blocking um, stuff. So you need to find where the proxy setting of the browser. So what we are trying to do is now tell the browser to send the traffic to this guy, right? This proxy. So that's what we need to tell the browser, right? Otherwise, browser will directly send the traffic to the server. Instead of that, we'll tell the browser, okay, send the traffic to this guy. So that is where the proxy setting comes into play. So right now, it is set to system proxy. We'll set it to manual proxy, and we'll set it for all the protocols, including HTTP, HTTPS, and everything, right? So we will type the address, same address, that is local host, right? Port 8080. Sorry, right? The port 8080, right? Is there anything else? No, we don't need anything else. This is what we need. So we'll set the proxy, right? Sometimes we may need to restart. So okay, so you can see it's getting traffic, right? And let it go like this, right? So let's go to Google, right? So you can see, um, let's see what is the connection. So okay, right? So now, what is the favorite site? Like, I don't know. Let's go to dialog. It's not my favorite site though, but I mean, any site you can. Okay, here it is. Future Today. Right. So it's loading. So you can see the history tab. Actually, it will capture all your traffic. Right, you can see this is all dialog traffic and request response, and you can see, right? So it's capturing. So you can basically see what is the traffic. Okay, what are the traffic flowing here and there. So you can see a lot of. So let's say, like, you want to log in, and here you can intercept this. Like, you can intercept on. then the tool will hold the traffic. It will not send the traffic to the backend server. It will hold the traffic for you. And you can type some username. Okay, I'm not typing actual username and password. Let's try login. Right. So this is our, okay, this is not the dialog one. This is Facebook. Okay, so this is our dialog login request, right? Um, it's font is little small, but you can see dialog. This is a post request, HTTP post, and user login, and you can see the username and password that I typed, right? So this is how the tampering proxy can help. And you can see the app ID. There is another parameter flowing, that is app ID. So all these tampering proxies have features. For example, you can send it to a repeater, and you can send it or you can drop it, right? So the repeater, now you don't need the browser UI. You can basically you can mess with these parameters, right? And see how it's reacting, right? You can see uh, they're running on Apache. So we will talk about that later, right? So and if you want, you can basically delete everything, right? Delete everything, and see how this behaves, right? So you can delete everything, right? And you can send malformed request and see how the server is behaving. And also this will help you to render. So this is fine. They are handling it correctly, right? So this is what tampering proxy, basically this is what the tampering proxy is. And so this is how it can help us, right? Cool. So just remember, this is just a tool, right? This cannot do much for you. This cannot do anything for you. Only thing is a little bit of help for you. Like you should know what to do, right? Otherwise, tools is just a dumb software. Okay. Mm. Cool. So let's go back to our original slide a little bit and come back. Okay. So okay, so what you need to do is just try this. I mean, whatever we do today, just try these stuff. Like you download Burp Suite, configure the proxy, and see whether it works, right? So that's what I need. Otherwise, no, you will not get the practice. Okay, so now let's look at the actual issues, right? Now, how to find these issues? I mean, list of issues. I will tell you how to do that. It's available, so don't worry about it. But if you look at most of the issues, these available because of the user inputs, right? If you eliminate the user inputs, most of the issues will go away, right? They will disappear. If you stop, like let's say, like I have a web page, but you can only view it. You can't enter anything, right? You cannot do any modification. You cannot enter anything, right? If you say like that, no one will use your website on the first phase, right? No one will use it. And so if you restrict the user inputs, most of the issues will go away. But again, uh, you cannot restrict the URL parameters, right? URL has some parameters, right? So you cannot restrict those. Those should be there. Then user will play with those parameters, right? So most of the issues exist today related to application security is because of user inputs, right? So we do two mistakes, right? One thing is we forget to validate, right? For example, we are asking date of birth from the user, right? But we forget to validate from the backend. Like we assume that, okay, user will enter a date of birth, right? So we trust him, right? But we forget to validate from the backend. So that is number one problem, right? Missing validations. And the other problem is we are not treating the user inputs correctly or right? Which means like user input is just data, or like, we should consider it as a text, right? Suddenly it will become part of your code, right? Which is a disaster, right? Because of that, there are so many issues, right? So two things. Let's look at what are the available issues because of those two, right? So um, trust but always verify, which is a good thing, right? So you know that there are so many JavaScript controls, uh, you know UI level validations, like client side validations. There are there, like, nice to have, right? You can see drop downs, DTPkers, like a lot of JavaScript controls, very user friendly, right? If you don't have JavaScript and these controls, you know i- i- it's really hard to use the website, right? And no one will consume your website, right? So most of the web applications these days popular because of the user friendliness, right? For example, I mean, famous website like a Facebook or whatever, right? Those are like very familiar or very famous among the community because of user friendliness, right? And because of that, like, you'd like to add, front end validations, JavaScript controls like that, but we need to make sure, like, you need to have backend validations, right? So server side, you have to validate. From server side, you should not trust anything without validations, right? That is very important. We have to always validate, right? And like when you look at these controls, right, we think like, okay, no one can modify these, right? For example, no one can add an item into this list, right? Only, user can select an item from this drop down, right? That's how we feel, or like that's how we believe. Not only us, including like professional developers also believe that, right? But that is not true, right? We'll see that, right, in a minute. Okay. So that is one thing, right? Backend validation, trust but verify, right? And also we have to treat it right? So we have to treat the user input as a user input, right? User input is not part of your code or part of your logic. It's just a user input, right? So because of this not treating right part, we have attack, a well-known attack called injection, and there is another attack called cross-site scripting. So I have a couple of slides explaining that. I believe you know what SQL injection is, right? So injection attacks is basically when someone enter a user input, it will go and inject as part of the code, right? So your logic may be considered with the user input. So user can control your logic ultimately, right? The famous one is SQL injection. There are so many, like command injection, XML injection, like LDAP injection, likewise, right? But the famous one is SQL injection because it's targeting the database, right? So this is what happened. Uh, a user basically using a client, maybe web client, will enter some SQL commands like part of SQL query. Like the typical one is like 1 = 1, right? And for this, you should have some understanding about SQL query language, right? So this is the problem, right? When you get into the security, you should have some background understanding about this everything. Otherwise, like, little difficult to understand. But if you have the correct background knowledge, background understanding how it works and everything, this is really really simple, right? So I mean, you guys are students still learning, so focus on these areas, right? When you get, I know that's most of the lectures I didn't even listen. I'm pretty sure, like, you guys are the same, but make sure that you get everything. Like when you have the software development or database module, you really put effort and learn about these syntaxes, how it works, how the SQL query works, right? How the conditions are working, like learn it, right? I mean, be thorough in that area. Then only you can become a hacker, right? Now, the fact is, like, typically the hackers uh, have a lot of knowledge, like in-depth knowledge about the subject, right? That's how they become hackers. So if you look at the hackers, okay, let's talk about a little bit of hackers, right? So if you look at the hackers, they invent so many things, right? Hacker is not a bad guy, right? Hacker is someone creative, right? Invent so many things. We have so many things in this world, including Wi-Fi, even the computers, because of hackers, because they wanted to improve things. They didn't like the way how it was, right? Right? They didn't like it. So they think differently, basically, right? And they study about it, right? They study the area, right? And they spend a lot of time studying the existing solution, and they see the problem and they fix it. Then we got so many things like Wi-Fi, for example, right? We get, because of that, we get laptops, right? Because of the hackers. So attacker, on the other hand, he's damaging, right? He's a criminal, basically, right? So two different terms. So what we need to do is, like, get a thorough understanding and become a hacker, right? And use our hacking knowledge to protect our things, right? So when you get the knowledge, you can do two things, right? You can create a damage, or you can harm something, or you can improve it, right? So what we need is, use your hacking talent to improve things, not to harm things, right? So that's the difference, right? Okay. So focus on every area, and be thorough on that. When you do that, this stuff is nothing, right? Really. Okay. So typical SQL query, if you look at, uh, this is something like, when you use for a login, right? So select, I believe you probably the syntaxes, like select username, password, these are the fields, and from users, this is the table where, and you have to do a where query, where condition, and username equal to whatever the username that user providing, and the password equal to whatever the password that the user is providing, right? And then execute the query and see whether we have a result. So if we have a result which is matching to this provided username and password in the database, which means we have a user, right? That's how the login functionality works, right? So if you provide a normal username and password, this is perfectly fine, will work perfectly. But unfortunately, if you are a hacker, or you're a hacker, you think a little bit different, right? You think, okay, so this is ultimately goes and execute a SQL query. So I'm going to include SQL syntaxes and see what is going on, right? So basically, if you put like username as this, ABC, and this, and password equal to this, O, right? And basically what will happen is, like, it will concat, right? So password is basically xxx dash O, 1 equal 1, username is equal to ABC, right? And ultimately the SQL code, so it will go and plug these parameters, right? Just like this, right? Concat those parameters to the query, right? And finally it will construct a different SQL query, right? So this is a different SQL. This is where, like, suddenly user input will become part of the code, right? Now user input will become the part of, become part of code. So basically user input alters your query. This should not happen, right? Never ever. Right? So then the result will be completely different. Now this is how uh, hackers or attackers are attacking. They are like, this is like a baby step, right? So okay. So let's see this in let's try to see this in practically. Let's try to see it. I'll try to demo it, right? Let's see how it goes. Okay. You still see this burp suit thing and the dialogue thing? You see it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So I have an application developed by myself. This is the best thing if you can do it. I mean, if you're a developer, you can do it. Just develop a simple application, simple CRUD application with these vulnerabilities, right? And try to attack your own application, right? And try to fix your own problems. This is the best way to learn, right? I'm telling this to everyone, including people in our company. Just try to hack your own development, right? Whatever you develop, you try to hack it, right? Then only you will learn it, right? So this is what I did. uh, this is just a .NET application, so let's see whether it works. I believe this is a little bit old, and let's see whether it works, right? If it works, okay, it works, right? So now this runs, this is running like local host and everything, right? So this is just a small application, nothing fancy. So there is a, this is a customer inquiry, right, form, right? So you can log inquiry, first name, last name, telephone. Okay, let's see. And you have a drop down. You can see, you can select what is the problem, and a description, right? So you click create, so it'll create, and home. So this is what the attacker does basically, right? He will observe a normal behavior of an application, right? Typical behavior, a normal behavior of application, right? This is what attacker does normally, right? So any website, if you go, you just observe the normal behavior and then try to, mess with it, right? uh, don't go and mess with public websites. We'll talk about that later. Right? So I'm going to assume this a little bit. Right? So simple data entry form, right? Now, if you believe like, okay, uh, this application, now attacker doesn't know anything, right? He got zero knowledge about this application or platform or whatever, right? He needs to trial and trial and error, right? So we'll try so many things. This is called like information gathering or reconnaissance for a phase. They will do so many things and try to understand the application, right? This phase is very important. This is what we cannot do because we don't have the patience, right? So whenever, like, we try one or two things and seems like it's not working, oh, this is not working, and we walk away most of the time, right? So that is the problem. That is our problem, right? So now we know about the SQL syntaxes and everything, and the single quote is a character that used in SQL language, right? It's a character uh, used in SQL statements to for strings, right? If you mention a string, you have to uh, put that string within single quotes. So if you want to see whether syntaxes or the validations properly done, you can put um, uh, like single quote, right? And see what happens, right? So let's see. So this is I'm running the application, right? So that's why this is you know so when you're testing application, if you're getting this sort of a error, all right, let me so if you're getting error like this, you're extremely lucky, right? Because normally, like, you don't get this kind of error. If you're getting error, this is really cool. So when you see the error, you have so many things, so many information, right? So by looking at the error, you can say this is .NET, right? This is a .NET application. So by looking at the error, and you can see .NET framework version and everything is there. So it's a ASP version also there, and stack information, a lot of information are there. Then internal paths and everything, and line numbers, everything is there, right? So and there is another important thing, all right? So you can see system data SQL client, which means backend database is SQL, right? So So many information, and you can see this is the file, and line 52 you get the error. Everything is there. This is kind of a detailed error message, which is a really bad thing if you have this in any of the websites, right? Some of our websites still have this problem, right? Detailed error message. So attacker can get so much of information, right? So which is really valuable for him to launch the attack, right? So attacker is not like, he just it's not like in movies or TV series. Like in TV series, he will come and like plug the computer, and he can get the CCTV camera of like someone's bedroom, like suddenly, right? It's not like that in practical world. Like you have to do so much of work. So trial and error, spend a lot of time, right? And collect a lot of information. And sometimes, some attackers, they collect information for months, like 6 months. They just collect information. They write exploits to collect information. Like that's how this is. Okay, so finally you can see it's a SQL syntax error, which means the single quote is not handled properly, right? So what if, like, sometimes you don't get this error. What if, like, application handles the error properly, right? You don't get any error, right? And you don't know whether it's vulnerable. Now, if you get the error, you know that it's vulnerable. Definitely it's vulnerable. But if you don't get the error, right, and you don't see any difference from the normal behavior, right, uh, you're not sure, like, attacker not sure whether this is vulnerable. So in that case, uh, he will go to the other option, like that is called blind attack. Like you don't know whether this is vulnerable, but still you're trying, right? So one example, I'll show you one example, right? So one example that you can use for SQL injection based trial and error is adding a delay. So in SQL, there is a syntax to add a delay, or like command to add a delay, right? So uh, for that also, you have to analyze a little bit. So and you need to understand the developer mindset and everything. So typically, how developer writes query is he will start from one field and go till the last field. So normally they look at the UI and program, right? So they will start with first name, last name, telephone number, subject, then the description. So most of the time, the last field is description in the SQL statement, right? So then, like, we can pick this field to attack, to launch the attack, this field, right? I mean, any field is vulnerable, but to launch the attack successfully, we can choose this field, right? Why? Because we should not crash the application, right? So this create should happen, and during that we should get the information that whether this is vulnerable or not, right? So this should work as it is expected, but we should get the information as well. So how to do that? This is a little bit tricky, right? This is where, like, you need a lot of trial and error. So normally, how to complete SQL statement? So it will basically end with a single quote, right? So because the other single quote is there in the code, so we are ending with a single quote. And normally there is a bracket, right? So we put brackets to parameters, and we are ending the SQL statement with semicolon, right? Now we can add. Now if you say 2 dash, which means it will comment whatever the rest of the SQL command. So SQL commands, the comment is double dash, right? So, but instead of commenting, we can add, there's a command called wait for delay. Right? Wait for delay, and we can add delays in seconds. So this means 5 seconds. Right? Wait for delay 5 seconds, right? And this is also need to be ended with a semicolon. and then rest of the thing. So we know that the original SQL statement, we break it, right? And the original SQL statement has another single quote and a bracket and a semicolon, right? So that thing we need to comment. Otherwise, it will throw error. Right? So remember, like, this thing. So I'm trying to write at once, but I mean, these things probably, if you are doing it for the first time, probably it will take time. So be patient, try uh, many times, trial and error. And that's why I said, like, you write your own code, then you can debug and see, right? That is the advantage, right? So let's see whether this works. So you can see it's waiting now. See, waiting. So you can see it waited for 5 seconds, right? It created the record, waited for 5 seconds to response, right? Normal response time is not like that. It's very quick, right? Normal response time is very quick. See, but wait for delay, it will wait. So which means wait for delay part works. So then the attacker knows, okay, even though this application not throwing error, seems like it is vulnerable. So he can go to the next step and launch the attack, right? Okay. So that is injection attacks, right? And so this is about, I'm not going to attack this one because it will crash my application. I think it will crash. So this is just a drop down. Like it seems like only users can select one item from the list, right? Typically, that's how it behaves. It seems like that way, right? But how many of you think like we can add an item to this list, right? So this is where the really scary things happen. So if you go to the developer tools, right? So browser has this developer tool. Let's see. All right, so you can see this is how it looks in the HTML code browser. You can see it's a select and you have options, right? So let's see whether we can edit this, right? Yeah, we can edit it, right? So all we need to do is copy paste another option, right? Right, and let's change the ID also. This is the ID. So this is what this ID is, the ID that we saved in the database, right? Text is just, we are seeing it, right? Okay, so sounds good. Let's see whether it's saved. Yeah, it seems like it's saved. Let's close this. You can see. Now what if like someone select this and do a data entry? So if you don't have backend validation, I'm pretty sure the application will crash because database integrity, if the database integrity and everything is not there, the foreign keys and unique, the keys are not defined, right? So this, garbage data will be entered into the database and application will not load, right? After that, no one be able to use the application, and developers will not be able to recreate this issue because this issue happens only in production, right? No one believes like, someone attacked this list and someone injected some malicious content here, right? So this is why the backend validation is really important. So I'm not going to uh, really, maybe at the end I will try, because if I enter this to crash, I need to go to the database and delete the data. So I don't, it will take time. So let's refresh. It's gone. Okay. Okay, let's try to log in. I think I have an account. Okay. I think I remember the password. Okay, so luckily. So nothing fancy, like, very small, website. And you can, so like I said, like, we need to observe a typical behavior of a website, right? So you can see if you go to profile window and you have the profile information, and when you come to home, and you can see whatever here display, whatever you put here, it will display on that home page right here. So that is the one observation that we have, right? So now we can go and try entering some other content, right? Like for example, instead of just text, let's try to enter JavaScript, right? I mean, you can enter anything. I mean, if you're not validating, users can enter anything, right? I mean, you can't ask users, hey, don't enter JavaScripts. You can't do that, right? I mean, users will do anything, right? So you can see that script is executing. So it's not showing here, but the script is executing, right? So that's the problem. So and some people think like this JavaScripting. So this issue basically we call it cross-site scripting, right? The earlier issue is SQL injection. This one is cross-site scripting. Both issues are there because of the user inputs. So JavaScript now, okay, hold on, I will reduce zoom. So simple JavaScript, I just enter simple JavaScript, right? So some people try to validate these JavaScripts to fix this issue, but it's not going to work. Why? Because it's not only the JavaScript. You can use any HTML tags, right? So XXX, and you can basically add events on mouse over, right? So let's see whether this works on mouse over. Just a div tag, right? HTML, any HTML tag you can, right? So you can see now it's showing. So when we move the mouse, the attack works better than earlier, right? So I mean, I believe you understand, like SQL injection, if the application is vulnerable for SQL injection, the attacker can directly get into the database, right? You are done, basically, right? That attacker can basically grab, entire database. So that is very severe. But the application is, if the application is vulnerable for cross-site scripting, just like this, now this is a script running on the browser. You can do whatever you want. Basically, you can redirect the user to a different website, or like you can scare the customer saying that okay, you can pop up a window and say, okay, make sure you enter password, username and password in this window, just to verify and maybe capture the username and password, right? So these attacks is possible. So okay, so that is one. Okay, let's fix this. Nothing. Okay, so there is another interesting issue I would like to demonstrate, but this is not related to how do you say, like user inputs, but this is very interesting, right? So let's say sometimes, like when you go to websites, you go to these website, and let's say, like your bank website, you go to bank, or like your Facebook here, and another tab you go to some other website, like online, some shits, I mean garbage sites, and suddenly you get, I mean, it should be better than this, but graphically very should be very attractive, but this is very lame, but something like this, right? So you see these, you are the 99th user, claim your price, whatever, right? So let's see, like when you try to claim your price, it will, it should not act like this, it will be silent. But if you go back, right, now you just click the button, right? If you go back and check, right? You can see your profile data is changed, right? So your profile data is changed, and basically it injects the cross-site scripting also, right? So basically your profile data got changed. Uh, so you don't even know. You just click a button on another web page, right? But your profile data got changed, right? So this is another a terrible attack. This is called cross-site request forgery, right? What happened is, like, when you logged into a website and the same browser, different tab, right? You go to a malicious website. I mean, you don't know whether it's malicious or not, right? So you just go to a website and just click a button, right? What will happen is this button click basically will ask you to change the profile data. So basically, like, it will call the save profile function, right? If you think about the backend, there is a HTTP call post, HTTP post, and this call basically will call that same call, right? So what will happen is, like, backend needs a authenticated token, right, to just to perform, right? So all these operations I cannot do without login. I have to log in first, and it will create an authentication token. And after that, it needs that token every time to do some action. So, but here, this button click, because it's the same browser, right? It will get the token, right? So browser will send the token because, same browser, different tabs, the cookies or whatever, it's available, right? So browser will send the cookie. That is how browser behaves. You cannot stop that, right? So this is another problem that we have, a terrible one, right? But, to attack this, I mean, launch the attack, you should make sure that the user logs in, already logged into the system, and he will use the same browser, different tab to you. I mean, open your whatever this POC or whatever, right? Exploit. So it's really difficult to attack the person, right? You need to have a lot of social engineering skills to do that, right? If you are attacking your friend, probably you need to talk to, I mean, get him on a phone and ask him to log in. Machang, log into university website and go to this page. There is a message. So same time you need to send a link through a chat or something. And can you open that link? So that way, right? That is how you need to attack. So probably you can, if you want to steal his assignment or something, you can do something like that. I mean, if the site is vulnerable, of course, right? So this vulnerability actually not considered as a high or critical vulnerability right now. It's not in the top 10 list because of it's a little hard to launch the attack, right? Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. And okay, so there is another attack. Just okay, I wanted to show you here. Okay, so here, okay, this page, right? Okay, so there is another attack. Okay, here. Okay, I have that. So this is again another thing, right? So you have these things, right? So you say, like, claim your price or whatever. Again, like, this should be like really attractive, not like this. It should be really attractive. I mean, these attacks, uh, you know, they were there. Actually, they were there, and most of the well-known sites are vulnerable for these attacks. For example, LinkedIn was vulnerable for this attack, whatever that we are looking at here, right? LinkedIn. I mean, long time ago, not now, right? So you can see now, if you click the button, right? So nothing will happen, but if you go and refresh, your notes are gone. You had 2 notes, that is gone, right? If you want, I mean, we can try again. So let's try. So let's refresh again. Okay, let's try again. Okay, nothing happens. If you go here, refresh, see, notes are gone. So what is what is exactly happening here, right? So if you look at this attack is called clickjacking, right? So this is where like, this is possible if someone can load your website inside the iframe, right? So this happens, right? Okay. Let's see. So this is the POC that, I wrote. Uh, okay, let's say like, you change this opacity field. Now you can see clearly what is happening here. You can see the actual, our notes page also loaded here, and it was not visible because the opacity field, but actual this, the top layer is the note list. So when you are clicking actually this click here button, actually you're clicking the delete all button, right? So if you look at now the delete all button here, because why? The notes are not there. So you have to do like a lot of CSS and stuff, like, put this button here. So I just adjusted to 2 notes because I'm really lazy. Um, so like when you enter 2 notes, that delete all button will exactly be on top of the claim button, right? So when you're clicking the button, you're actually clicking the delete all button, right? So this is also a terrible situation and terrible issue, right? Okay, so these are a couple of issues. uh, Only thing is, like, these are not, you cannot recreate most of these vulnerabilities with actual websites, because most of them are, I mean, who knows, like maybe it's possible for some websites, but that it's a criminal offense to go and test these vulnerabilities on actual public sites. So use a, we don't need to use public site, use a vulnerable application. So that's it, I problem solved, right? So okay, so this is called clickjacking. Okay, so let's shift to uh, let's stop this application for a minute, and let's shift to the slide for a minute. I think we saw a lot of couple of vulnerabilities actually, right? I have those in slides. So cross-site scripting, we talk about it. So how do we make sure that these issues are fixed, right? Only one thing we need to make sure is we need to treat the user input correctly, right? We need to add proper validations for injection attacks, so especially like SQL injection. So we can add these parameterized queries. So then this will not be vulnerable. Just search for that. And, the cross-site scripting, of course, we need to, sanitize this using HTML and code. So the browser will understand this as a user input, just a text input, not as a JavaScript or HTML, right? So that will solve the problem. Okay, so this is one thing that you need to understand. So never invent a solution. So this is how a typical developer tried to solve JavaScript issue, cross-site scripting issue. So what he'll do is he will get the user input and remove the opening script tag and closing script tag, right? So that's how he tried to solve. So this is your task number 1. Find the actual input. Okay, let me show you this quickly. Let me share my entire screen. How do I do that? Okay, can you see my desktop? Dirty desktop. See that, right? See the Python code. So this is simple Python code. So this is the string, a typical the script tag. So what I'll do is I'll replace this script tag just like what I am doing here, right? So this is just a simple Python code, right? Just replace the you know opening script tag and closing script tag. So if you run this, right, let's run this, right, Python 3, okay, test Python, right. So both these tags will be removed, and only the alert one is remain. So seems like we fixed the cross-site scripting, but we know that it's not. So that this, what you need to do is just identify how to cheat this, right? How to cheat this, or how to bypass this, the validation. So the target is find the input you need to put here to get the output as this, right? I believe you understand the question. So you need to find what you need to put here to get this as the output when you run this code. So that is the question, right? So that's what you need to understand. So what is the input you need to put? So you can try so many things, right? So you can try here, you can try whether like, put another script tag and save it and try running it. So it doesn't work, right? Or like, you can try so many things, right? So you can try, I don't know whether it will work for capital. Um, so it works for capital, but let's try with simple, right? So only simple. So I forgot to put this, uppercase, lowercase thing, but anyway, let's say simple, all simple. Let's add a condition there. So what is the input you need to provide just to get this output? Output this as the output. So we need to get, so when we run this code, we should get this as the output, right? So that is the task number 1 we need to do. I will send this code to the moderator, so they will send it to you after the session. Okay, so let me share the slide deck again. Cool. So never invent the solution, because why? When we try to invent our own solution, we don't know whether there are problems with that, or like, there are, what are the problems with that? Is there any problem? So best thing is to go with the industry recommended solution, right? Always go with the industry recommended solution. That's something that we need to make sure, because most of the time we are developers, right? I mean, we are engineers, we invent things, right? So then we try to invent security solution. Not a good thing, right? Because security solution should be well tested, uh, you know uh, highly created and well tested, right? I mean, we can create this and we can test it, uh, but there are already solutions well tested, well known, and everybody is using it, right? So if there's a problem in your solution, then you have to fix it. But if there's a problem in the well-known solution, then entire world has a problem, right? So they will fix it quickly. But your solution, then you have to fix it, right? So that is another thing. Okay, so let's go now. Okay, so here's the thing. Now we attack, basically here we attack the technology, basically, right? We mess with the user inputs and all that. There's another technique, right? So this is, most of the people, most of the hackers, they're saying, uh, don't try to attack the technology, right? Just attack the user, because that is easy, right? So there is an entire subject called social engineering, which is a really good, really good. So follow all the characters like Frank Abagnale. I believe you heard about him. The movie called Catch Me If You Can. Catch Me If You Can is based on Frank Abagnale's character. He did a TED talk. It is on YouTube, so just go and see what he has to say, right? And there are so many other hackers, I mean, actual attackers. They really target the human component, like, because we are stupid, right? Normally humans are stupid. That's why, like, I think I saw that you guys you mentioned like robotics and everything, like probably you are planning to create like artificial intelligence a machine, probably first thing that the machine will detect is human is the threat, right? If you create an intelligent machine, he will detect the human is the threat, right? Because they don't understand but the thing. I mean, they are stupid, right? It doesn't matter, like, you know, same thing you have to repeat 1,000 times, it still don't follow. So they will probably they will destroy humans. That will happen, right? There are movies about that. So think about it if you're trying to create artificial intelligence robot. Okay, so trick the user, right? You have to trick the user, then this thing will be really easy, right? Because tricking the user is really simple, right? If you think about all the security incidents, Facebook hacking incidents, everything is basically not attacking the Facebook, just attacking the person, right? Guessing the password or stealing the password, everything, right? Okay, so the cross-site request forgery, the attack we saw, basically, just we saw the demo. So this is top issue. Like we can send some malicious link to the victim, and he will load it, and he will click here and there, and you can destroy the application if the application is vulnerable, of course, right? And clickjacking, we just saw that, right? So uh, cross-site request forgery attack. So authentication token cannot fix it, right? So that's the problem. So for this, there is another solution called anti-request forgery token. There's another token just like the authentication token, but it's in HTML body area, so attacker cannot steal. If it is in the cookie, of course the browser will send it. That's what happened to authentication token. But anti-forgery token, basically it's in the body area. Click checking, of course, you need to restrict your site. You should not allow your site to load inside the iframe, right? Just get an iframe and try to load your university website or Google, right? They don't allow typically, right? They don't allow. So uh, early days we had a browser header called Xframe options. Now we have CSP headers, right? These are like web server options. You can add those headers, and you can tell the browser, don't allow to load my website inside an iframe, right? So if you can load a particular website inside an iframe, you have this click jacking issue, right? Okay. So unvalidated redirects and forwards, right? This is another issue. You have sometimes, like, you have the URL parameters, and you can mess with, right? And okay, I think I can demo this issue as well. Um, let me, I forgot to show that. Let me quickly show that. Okay, I stopped the site. I don't need the dialogue. Okay, so let's log off. Okay, let's see. I think we have it here. So something like that, right? So if you copy the link, where's the copy link? Okay. Now you can see this is a link, and you have the parameter, URL parameter, the site that you need to redirect, right? So all you need to do is, like, change that. Sorry, change the site name. Right? So you can put anything. Okay, you put dialog. Right? That is our favorite thing. Right? So you can see it will redirect to dialog. So this is very dangerous because, like, whenever, like, you send this link to a user, right? So this is a known website. So normally we don't care about URL parameters, right? We don't even look at those parameters, what they are, and all that. Like, we don't care, right? We just look at the website. Oh, like, okay, I know this website, so just click it, and it will redirect to some other site. So that is the site. uh, it will load to some other some other site, and you believe that it's part of the other site, right? This is where, like, most of the phishing attacks happens, right? So then this site will ask some questions, and you will believe that you are in actually the main site. For example, let's say like your university site has this vulnerability, and someone will send you a link. It seems like, it's a link to your university. Then you click on the links, it will redirect you to another website, and that website is asking some questions like your phone number and your, whatever, like, username and password, whatever, right? So you believe that you are in a campus website, right? That trust will be there. So this is another, like, a critical issue, right? So this URL parameter, whatever you use here, is not validated, right? It's not validated. Whatever you enter here, the server will redirect you, right? So that's what unvalidated redirects basically means, right? Very simple problem, but it's really I mean, damage is high. Okay, so there are a few things we need to consider, like the transport layer security. I think you know what this is, which means like the HTTPS, right? So you know what it is. So this will basically encrypt the traffic between your browser and the server, right? Browser and the server. So no one can listen in the middle. So that's what HTTPS means. So free site to see whether this SSL is configured properly is SSL labs. This basically this URL. So this is a free tool. All you need to do is go and put your website here and then click submit, right? So this will scan. I mean, this is not adding a lot of traffic towards the website. It will just scan the certificate, right? SSL certificate, and find the problems, right? Configuration problems, right? So this is a free tool. I know most of you are interested in tools. Authentication, authorization. This is again a critical area to look. So I'm telling you some areas to look, right? So what you need to do is you need to check whether uh, when you log in, you can access some of the features, right? So you need to see whether without login also you can access these features, right? So that's what you need to look into. Or else, like, you need to log in. You can log in and see whether you can access your friends' information, right? Or your teacher's information, right? Just in case, like, you want to modify the results or steal assignments, right? So authentication and authorization should be there, properly implemented. Otherwise, there will be a lot of problems. And so cookies, I believe, we use cookies to store information on the browser side. And there are flags, HTTP only and secure, two important flags, right? If you make the cookie HTTP only, the client side JavaScript cannot read it, right? And secure, if you make it secure, only HTTPS connection, the cookie will not travel in plain text connections, right? Cookie will travel only secured encrypted channels, right? So that is the thing that we need to consider here, the cookies. And also, like, we should not store any sensitive information within cookies, right? And that is also because cookie, anybody can read it, right? So browser cookies, anybody can read it. So you should not store any sensitive information. Sometimes people store, like, whether user is admin or not. That is also stored in the cookie. So you can mess with that. All right. So this is another location that you need to look into. What are the cookies that the application is using? What kind of information is storing? Public features, right? For example, we saw our customer inquiry application. Customer inquiry, that inquiry entry form, you don't need to log in to access, right? So you can access without login. So these features are public features. Anybody can access. So attackers, like, they really love to target these features because, like, anonymously you can access. So these features, we need to protect, right? Also like brute force attacks, right? So they launch brute force attacks, using these features, right? I mean, we need to protect using, most of the time we can use a captcha, right? If someone is trying to enter so much of customer inquiries, after 5 or 6, we can pop up a captcha and say, are you a human or whatever, right? So otherwise, you can write a script and target that. And response headers, of course, right? We saw the dialogue site also. There is a response header with a lot of information. And again, like, a lot of information revealed through response headers. You can see Drupal, this site, whatever, this is /com. So site is using, Apache and Drupal, developed using Drupal. So response headers, you can see. We'll see a small demo. So information disclosure also happens sometimes, like, using these messages, invalid password, login failed, which means the username is correct, right? Should not allow these kind of messages, because most of the time we are trying to make it user friendly, so much user friendly, right? And we forget about these information disclosure, right? Okay, so before we get into tools, I'm going to give you the task 2. Let me share the screen again. I'm going to share the full screen, right? So we just saw a vulnerable application. So this is the task 1. I just demo with a vulnerable application that I developed. So what are the options that you have? Is one good option is this OSP. Let's see whether it's still active. OSP Juice Shop, right? And if you Google it, you can find it. Sorry. Right. So this is the link. Right. It's a GitHub link. And you can deploy it online to Heroku environment. All you need is Heroku account, right? One-click deployment, right? So all you need is a free Heroku account, right? It's free. Just deploy it with a URL. So this is my instance. You deploy your instance. So this is the task number 2, right? Few activities. Just deploy this, right? First thing, deploy this. And here, this is again a typical application. So just attack. So let's assume like you don't have a user account. We saw a SQL injection attack, right? You know how to launch attack, how to test and everything, right? So attack this login page, right? Attack the login page and get into the application, right? So that is task 2, right? So let's assume you get into the application. So give me a second. Let me try to attack this, okay? I'm going to stop sharing. Let's try to attack this. Okay, don't save. Okay. Now I am, okay, let me share this again. Now attacking is pretty easy, right? So attacking is pretty easy. I mean, it's tricky, but it's easy. So now we are inside the application, right? So inside the application, we logged in. So you can see logout, which means login. So I didn't use credentials. I just attacked, right? So if you go to basket, and you can see we are inside the admin account, right? So you can see admin at Juice Shop, whatever, right? So this is admin's account. I want you to understand when you attack this, why you are getting to the admin account, admin's accounts, right? So that is the question that you need to answer, right? So first thing, deploy the application, create your own instance, Heroku. That is like 15 minutes task. Second thing, attack SQL injection, little bit tricky. I mean, try to attack on your own Maybe if you search, probably there are solutions, but try to attack on your own just for learning. Maximum it will take half an hour, and try to understand why you are getting into admin's account. Come up with the answer, right? A creative answer. The reason why you are getting into admin's account. Why not another account, right? So just try to get it. I mean, come up with the answer for that question, right? Okay. So you can create your own account also, right? Create your own account and play with the app, and you can, every other vulnerabilities like cross-site scripting and everything is there. You can try with this application as well, right? So this is really cool application. I didn't do any demos because I wanted you guys to try it. That's why I used my application. You can see it works, right? So you can basically create, not get a customer, and you can create your own user account, right? So try to play with this. Okay, so that is the task number 2. Little difficult, I know, tricky, but try it. Okay, so SQL injection is not the aim. To answer why you are getting into the admin account, that is the question that you need to answer, right? Because that is important. That is the most important part, not the SQL injection attack. Okay, so let's see the rest of the slides quickly. Okay. Mm, cool. And then tools, the technologies available, right, for this area. So I just demoed you some of the common issues available, and how to create, how to attack, and where to look into, and all that, right? Very high level, right? But I believe you can build your knowledge around this and become expert. So it's not a one day thing. So it'll be a journey. It will be a lifetime journey, right? So hope this will help. So these are the available technologies. We have SAS DAS. So SAS is basically a technology where you can analyze the source code, right? Source code, before you deploy into production or whatever, you analyze the source code and come up with vulnerabilities, right? DAST is basically you deploy the application and then test it, just like what we did, like the QA testing. And these are like the latest technologies, the RASP. This is called Runtime Application Self Protector, which means we can deploy that tool and it will be there. If someone is trying to attack, this can detect it and prevent it. So protector part will protect it, right? Let's say, for example, if you're trying to, your application is vulnerable, but if the attacker is trying to attack, launch SQL injection, this will detect it, right? It's a pattern based, right? And people are enhancing these tools, probably like within next couple of years this will get so much better, and all these tools will go away, I believe. Software composition analysis, another important thing, where it will analyze all the third party components, right? We use a lot of third parties components like jQuery and everything. So this will analyze those. Container security, I believe that now we have containers and everything like Docker and everything, right? So that security also we have tools to analyze, right? So I just put some names. All these are commercial tools. So just search for these tools and understand how they works, right? So burp suit that we just saw, app spider, checkmarks. Checkmarks is a SAST source code. SNCC is a SCA, uh, open source analysis. Contrast is a RASP solution, right? Okay, Twistlock is another like solution. Like you can please go and check these technologies and understand how they work and what is the purpose. right? That is really important. Like, what is the purpose of these tools, right? Okay, so if you're thinking like, tools is can do everything, right? That is also not true. Like every tool, doesn't matter security or whatever, every tool has two errors, two problems, right? That is type 1, type 2, right? False positive, false negative, right? These are there within tools. I mean, you cannot eliminate these, right? So this is what we need to understand. Most of the people, um, especially like the managers or whoever, like they don't understand it. They think like, okay, put this tool, problem solved. It's not like that, right? Because false positives are there, false negatives are there, right? So like I said before, the tools are there just to help, right? Just to help, right? It cannot do everything. Those are there just to help, right? Okay, so I just put this slide. Normally I don't put it, but you need to understand. It's a little bit harsh though, but you know it's true though, right? Fool with the tools, still a fool, right? So tools cannot do much. That's what you need to understand. You should know what to do, right? These tools can help you, right? They will give you output, right? For example, checkmarks will scan the source code and give you the output. You should be able to understand what the heck is that and what the heck is this. What should I do now, right? Otherwise, just a tool. Okay. Okay, cool. So this is what the other thing, how to get to know about these security vulnerabilities. So we discussed only very few today, like 3, 4. Now just look at these lists, right? These are the top 10 and SANS has top 25, right? Very good resources. And OWASP top 10, I mean, OWASP is a good resource. Just go and learn. I mean, there are so many information, like, you can learn everything. Get to know about these issues, like thorough understanding how these issues happen, how to test, how to fix, right? So that thing. And if you want to have a kind of a checklist for security, this ASVS is better, right? And have a look. Okay, so no public sites, as I said, right? Don't attack, especially government sites, right? Don't go and mess with government sites. Why? Because attack works most of the time, right? So that's why they are vulnerable. Then after that, probably, you have to go and answer the questions that the CID is asking. That is a nightmare because they don't understand security, right? And other worst scenario is they will get your laptop and expose everything, right? So this guy is drug addicted or sex addicted or whatever, right? They will publish everything, and socially you will be destroyed. So whatever, don't touch public websites. It's not a good idea, and it's illegal too, right? Okay. Final thing, let's have a look into your university website. I'm not going to hack into, but let's have a look. Just a look. So where is my virtual machine? Okay. I'm trying to share this. Let's try to see whether I can share it. Okay. Do you know what is your university website? Okay, I can give Google, we can Google search, right? Peradeniya University. Peradeniya. How do you say University of? Peradeniya. Here we have. Wow, we have it. We really have it. Okay, nice. Very good. We have a login. Okay, change pass. Okay, we need to log in. Academics. Faculty of Arts. So the troublemakers. Nice. Are we capturing? Or I'm not sure whether we captured. Oh, I think we captured. Okay, let's see the response. Oh, okay. So it's running on Apache 2.435, OpenSSL1, and PHP 5.6.38, somewhat older. And so this is what information disclosure is, right? Response headers. Okay. So that is admin. I think that is what the login page and everything is there. This is the art faculty. Let's see whether that, okay. So that has the updated PHP version. You can see. Ah, they updated. So admin is, okay, a little bit, okay, this is the main site, I think PDN. Oh, okay, so it also has the latest, I think, the new version. So admin is basically, so these are the, you can see this information, these headers, probably we need to remove. Okay. I just wanted to see a look, since because like, it's university. Okay, so that's all I got. And if you have any questions, or if you want to talk to my email, this is the email, right? Okay, I took 2 hours. I'm sorry about that. But we talk about like very little today, to be honest, like very little. But I believe this is enough for you to get into the field and understand this. And this is kind of a growing field, a very demanding field. And I mean, you guys are like, talented, young blood, and very talented, knowledgeable people. I would like really like if you guys get into the field, and we can enhance this, right? So learn about this, practice this, right? And if you have any questions, if you face any problem, let me know. I'll help. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for the organizers. And it's a great opportunity for me. And hope you enjoy the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the interesting and informative presentation, and we were able to get a vivid awareness from your lecture. So there is a couple of questions posted in the question platform. So I will be delivering it to them from one by one. So the first question will be, what is the result of allowing cookies on site, and how does it affect to information leakage?
Sir, can you repeat the question? I didn't get that.
What is the result of allowing cookies on site, and how does it affect to information leakage?
Okay, so allowing cookies for a website, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have to have cookies because we need to store all the authentication tokens and some of the user preferences and all that, right? We have to have cookies, like uh, I mean, we cannot completely avoid cookies. I mean, we can, but it's not necessary. Cookies is not a problem, but we have to use it correctly. So cookies is there on the browser. So when you log in, for example, like log into the Facebook and see what are the cookies created. There are browser plugins or a developer option. You can see the cookies. And, there are so many information is stored. Um, the problem is like if you are storing sensitive information, because some cookies are not destroyed when you log out from the website or when you like close the browser, those cookies will be there. Some cookies like will be there forever. Some cookies has a TTL value, time to live value. Only problem is like, these cookies stored in the browser. So if someone else is using, let's say for example, a public computer, right, you're using, so your cookies will be there and next person can see it. So if you store like, your password hash, maybe, right, or your like, username, or like your email address or your phone number, right? Those information, personally identifiable information, or any other like, sensitive information is stored in the browser site, someone can steal it, right? And also there are problems, like I said, there are flags for cookies if you're not set properly, and someone can steal during the transit, or like using a JavaScript attack, injection attack, or whatever. And let's say, for example, authentication cookie, right, or token, that is also a cookie. So if someone steal that cookie, so the attacker can impersonate you, right? So probably I basically I steal your Facebook authentication cookie, I put it from on my browser, then I can log into your account, that's it, right? So that's why like the cookie is very important. Protection of cookies is very important. And also, like if you are storing any sensitive information, that there is a possibility to get that information leaked. I hope that answer is good.
The next question will be, is there any certification process or a kind of examination for cybersecurity in Sri Lanka? And as a beginner, what is the best way to learn cybersecurity?
Sure. So um, I would say like if you can self study, I mean, there are so many content on YouTube. You can learn each and every attack, how it happens, and how to attack, how to fix. Everything is there on YouTube. So um, try to watch some simple videos, examples, and try to understand. And I mean, if now you are in a university, right? So if you have a problem, you have people to ask, I mean lecturers to ask. So you have that advantage right now. But in the industry, when you get into industry, there are information security specific academic programs as well. If you think about like doing an MSc or something, like you have option academic side. But professional side, if you are thinking of, like there are training programs, not in Sri Lanka, but online platforms are there. For example, Fluorosite, or some free contents also there and online. I mean, there are plenty of contents to learn. OSP website is a great resource if you want to learn about more these application security issues. I mean, refer it. Certifications, of course, like there are so many certifications. It depends what you want to do. If you want to get into a GRC side, then CISM, CRISC, CISSP, architecture side. But if you want to get into like the pen test, that side, I know the most famous one is CEH, but not really. So there is a certification called OSCP, Offensive Security Certified Professional. Only thing is like very expensive. All these certifications are really, really expensive. And the training course, if you're going to purchase the training course, it will be like, for CISSP, it will be like $5,000, which is 1 million, I guess, in rupees. And OSCP, it's $900, which is 2 lakhs, right? So pretty expensive. Certification, training, pretty expensive. But like the very, very basic level trainings, there are so many content free. So I recommend initial stage, do a self study, like a good self study. Then when you get into a job or something, then you can finance yourself, then go for a certification. So that's what my recommendation is.
Sir, what do you recommend as a secure platform to use in daily life, Linux-based or Windows?
That's a good question, actually. Um, well, it's not about the platform, right? It's about you, and how you use it, right? So some people argue that Windows is not secure, but it's not true, right? I mean, if you use the Windows with poor settings, security settings, then maybe it's not secure. So Linux also, how you use it, like if you have Linux and you plug all the USB drives, you download all the crap from websites and everything, then again it will not be useful. So best thing is to follow security best practices. I mean, people think Linux is more secure because most of the attacks are there for Windows. I mean, only less attacks are there for like Linux and Mac OS. Like, but there are attacks, right? There are malware, like Linux-based malware. But Windows, like you got locked. So I mean, if you properly set up like all the security controls like antivirus like if you behave correctly, right? I mean, you can minimize the damage, right? It's not really the operating system. It's about how you use it, actually. Yeah, it's a good question, actually.
There is another question asking that is Wireshark is a kind of a burp software.
No, actually, Wireshark is a packet capturing tool, right? So Burpsuit is a web proxy, like capturing web traffic. So Wireshark is basically capturing the network packets, right? So the network level, right? So basically, you can capture the network traffic, uh, right? So, but the web proxy like Burpsuit is capturing only the layer 7 traffic, right? So Wireshark, I mean, try to use it as well. It's basically capturing the entire network traffic.
Okay, thank you, sir. And there is one last question.
Sure.
Can cross-site scripting be prevented by filtering the input, encoding the output, and using appropriate response headers? Will this handle the injection issue?
Yes. So definitely, yeah. That's how you need to fix the cross-site scripting. So any user input, you need to validate proper validations. But validate in the sense you cannot restrict characters, right? So cross-site scripting, most of the time we are trying to restrict this less than sign, greater than sign, those characters, right? SQL injection, single quotation, we're trying to restrict or block. But you cannot do that because there are business requirements. Sometimes you need a single quote for apostrophe, like and sometimes you need to enter, user needs to enter less than, greater than signs. These characters you cannot restrict, right? So but you need to have validations. For example, let's say you only allow user to enter like 50 characters, so that should be validated from the backend, right? You should allow only 50 characters, then you can minimize the damage. And yes, then the cross-site for all these issues there is a recommended fix, right? That we need to understand. For example, the cross-site scripting, HTML encode is the fix. So when you HTML encode, browser will read it as a text, else browser will read it as a JavaScript or HTML, right? So when you HTML encode, browser will read it as a text and display the text as it is, right? So yeah, so and there are browser headers, for example CSP headers and cross-site scripting prevention headers like XXS protection. Only problem is like when you apply uh, CSP headers in the browser, you cannot have inline JavaScripts, right? So you need to make sure that you don't have inline. Inline means like within the HTML page you cannot write JavaScript. You have to separate into another JavaScript file and include there, right? So if you're writing a new application, you can follow that best practice. Like you don't write inline, you just put all the JavaScript to another file. But like very old application, like legacy application, it's really hard to apply these headers. That's kind of a practical challenge that we are having. Yes, it's a good question actually. Cool. Anything else?
We sorry, sir, but we have been receiving some more questions.
Sure,
Like,
sure. It's fine. I'm fine.
the next one will be: is Windows Defender enough to protect from malware?
I don't know. Like really, do you think? See, these tools like endpoint protection tools, right? Even antivirus, all these are rule based, right? So you can see, it seems. I mean, I don't think it's enough, But there are restrictions, like we should restrict ourselves as well, right? Like I said, these tools alone cannot protect us, right? Because it's another software, right? And it is a rule based. For example, virus guard, normally it will be signature based, so it has a signature database. It's to verify. So sometimes like it will analyze the pattern of a program and all that, right? So anomaly based, and there are techniques, but all those are rule based. It's not perfect, right? That's the thing that we need to understand. So we need to make sure that, you know, if something is not trusted, we should not download. We should not plug a USB drive and allow it, and you should not run on admin privileges. Like that is really important, right? These things, right, is important. uh, like I said, it's not about the tool or the technology. It's really us, right? We need to make sure that you know that, like, we can create a protective system um, if someone inside the system is not destroying the system, right? So that's what it is. uh, Now we install Bitdefender or any semantic or whatever endpoint protection, and we are trying to cheat, or like we are trying to get everything in. So that Bitdefender cannot do much because it has limitations, right? All these softwares has limitations, and operating system has a limitation. So that's what I said, like, we need to understand, we need to really understand how these technologies work, how these things work, and ultimately we are responsible for ourselves, right? Protecting ourselves, not the Bitdefender or semantic. So yeah.
So that was the final question. So thank you, sir, for joining with us and also for providing perfect explanation for the questions of the participants.